Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. In today's video, we are going to be doing a reading and energy update for our beautiful collective here on YouTube. You guys know I channel these energy updates every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I do recommend tuning in on those times and days if you feel guided to do so. The live chat feature during the live premiere of those reading videos is really potent energetically. It's a really powerful space to enter into to help you raise your vibration and clear your own energy. And a huge thank you to all of you who are participating right now in today's live chat as this is premiering. I am so grateful for our beautiful community that we are creating here. And if you feel a resonance with the energy here, I do invite you to subscribe to the channel, join our community of like-minded, conscious, creative beings here on YouTube. An added benefit of subscribing is that it does tend to allow me to pick up more easily on your energy and channel more specifically for you, not only here in this video, but in future reading videos as well. And those of you who are regulars on my channel know that I often will pick up these kinds of collective energies from our group here on YouTube, and I will at times channel through what I call mini readings outside of those regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday readings based on the current energies that I am picking up on. So a huge thank you again to you for being a co-creator here, because regardless of when or where you are listening from, your energy is actively participating in the co-creation of all the messages and pieces of information that come through. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by shuffling. But there are a few, let's call them notes, although they're not literally written down this time. Sometimes I will write down things prior to the reading that I'm receiving or downloads coming through. But today these notes are streams of consciousness, if you will, that were coming up right as I was energetically preparing myself to do this channeling. And the first message is around empathic absorption. So many of you listening here, and I would say really all of you who are resonating deeply and consistently with these messages, are empathic to some degree. And many of you are empathic to a very, very heightened level. Now, what this means is your way of being, moving, interacting, and operating in the world is very, very different from other people, because you have very different energetic needs than others. You are someone who has a very porous energetic field, meaning you are capable of picking up on and interpreting and processing energies from external things, people, and collectives through your own physical body, especially when you are in proximity to them. Now, what this also means, and what we talked about in a previous reading that I did earlier, or I would say last week actually, since today is Monday, we talked last week about how being so energetically sensitive as you are comes with a hidden superpower, which is the ability to actually imprint your energy more strongly, meaning when you have a porous energetic field and you're capable of picking up on energy very easily. What this also means is your energy is significantly felt by others as well. And not just by others, but by the fabric of the universe. You're able to imprint your energetic signature on the fabric of this universe, which means that you are capable of manifesting very quickly because you're able to send out this really strong and powerful energetic signal that via the law of attraction draws back to you whatever you are intending, whatever you are desiring. Now, there are so many messages coming through around this, so I'm just going to run through some of these things that you may need to know if you are resonating with this so far. But of course, I usually say this at the beginning. Do keep in mind that you are the powerful one, you are the intuitive one. You have an intuition, a sense within you that is perfectly and accurately guiding you through your life. And no one outside of you, nothing outside of you can dictate that for you. It is yours. So through this content and these videos, my goal is to help you become more consciously aware and more consciously connect with that inner voice within yourself, with that pure soul internal knowing. So if something here isn't aligning with what you know in your heart and soul, then trust that it's meant for someone else who's listening, and just allow yourself to leave it here, and of course only take what is resonant and confirming for you and feels aligned for you internally. Okay, so I don't even really know where to begin. Maybe a lot of you listening have been feeling a lot coming through spiritually, energetically, however you interpret energies. And this does make sense because we did just experience a full moon yesterday on the 21st. So there's been a lot of culminating, kind of building energies. But when it comes to this empathic absorption, we need to talk about how when you are an empath, you are not only picking up energies from other physical human beings specifically, you are also capable of picking up on collective thought forms, especially when you are in environments, in places, in groups of people who all think a certain way. The paradox that an empath I'm channeling here is dealing with, well, the seeming paradox, it's not really a paradox, but it might feel that way, and hopefully we can clear up some of that paradoxical confusion that you might be feeling. The seeming paradox is you are capable of picking up on these groupthink kind of mentalities, and this can cause you to feel as though when you are around certain groups of people who think a certain way or have certain limiting belief systems, or even just when you're out and about in society, in the world, you are picking up on a lot of collective thought forms from people who are stuck in low vibrational places and carrying a lot of blockages, carrying a lot of limiting belief systems. And so the paradox is you are aware that being around these people, maybe it's specific people in your life, maybe it's certain groups you're involved with or enjoy being involved with, maybe it's just traveling, being out and about in the world in whatever way you move around the world. But regardless, you know that being around these people and groups does tend to seem to lower your vibration a bit or affect you, where it's kind of like you have to then pull back and clear your energy and raise your vibration again. But at the same time, there's something in your heart and your soul that has been pulling you, especially recently, to connect in these places in a very real, visceral, 3D kind of way. So, of course, this is going to look different for everyone, but for some of you, it could be that you have a group of friends or family members, people in your life that you know have certain blockages or limiting belief systems. You are cognizant of that. And when you're around them for a long period of time, because you are experiencing empathic absorption of their limiting belief systems and those somewhat lower vibrational thought forms, you're aware that it does tend to impact your energy if you're around them for a while physically. That you do even find yourself, and this is a huge thing we need to talk about. This empathic absorption of thought forms means that you might artificially pick up on thoughts that are not your typical baseline, that resonate with that limiting belief system, but that really don't resonate with your typical baseline or the core of your soul, or even what you've grown and expanded into energetically. So, for example, and again, you can apply this any kind of way, and most likely, if this is for you, you already feel a resonance and know how this is connecting. But for example, let's say you've healed certain patterns and blockages within yourself around abundance or finances or work or money or whatever the case is, and you feel yourself in an expanded place on some of these topics. But then when you're around certain groups of people who still have those blockages, even though you've expanded, you feel these thoughts starting to pop into your mind. Maybe it's fears regarding these types of topics that you've already cleared or you've already expanded out of. Maybe it's lack mentality, limiting belief systems. It's like you might even think some of these thoughts or kind of start feeling this lack mentality sort of in your own mind or in your own energy that is not typical for you. And what you'll find is that this causes this temporary kind of dip in your vibration. But then once you pull back into your own core energy, once you get back into those energetic hygiene practices, those rituals, those routines that work for you, you are able to kind of clear the energy, raise your vibration again, get to that expanded place on those topics that you've already energetically moved into. It's just that temporarily you were empathically affected by these things. And then you're able to, in a sense, kind of feel clearer, feel higher vibrational, and then go out and about and move around the world however you go about doing that again. And that, of course, as I've been saying, is going to look so different from one individual to the next. And so the paradox here is, why is it that even though I'm aware, being around these people and things does tend to cause me to pick up on these lower vibrations, and yet I feel called to move out and to interact with them, or to be part of this, to be in this system, to be in this group, to be involved in this way, to be in the physical world in whatever way this is. And there's actually a highly spiritual reason for this. This is part of your purpose and path as a light worker here on earth. There is something energetically that you are doing through this, even though to your human self it feels circular. So to your human self, it feels as though you're going in circles because you are raising your vibration, clearing your energy, and then kind of pushing back out to interact with these people, these groups, to be involved in this way. Maybe it's something that you do in the workplace. Maybe it's just the lifestyle that you live in the physical 3D world. Maybe it's the people you interact with. But it's like you'll go out, do these things, feel them starting to affect your vibration, and then you'll pull back into yourself and have to clear your energy and get to that clear, high vibratory place again. So your mind is thinking, or maybe even telling you, maybe I should cut all of these people and things out of my life because clearly it affects my vibration. It feels like we're just going in circles, and yet your intuition is telling you to stay and to connect or to create or to be involved in the physical world in these ways. And when you do attempt to pull back for too long, you may start to feel this lack of passion, this restlessness, because it's like Your soul wants you to be out there interacting, engaging, creating, doing in the world, or being in these places, spaces, or around these people, whatever the case is. So the mind is only seeing this from, well, it's funny, I was about to say two-dimensional, but of course we often call this 3D versus 5D. But it's almost like when you look at a 2D drawing and you see a circle, it's like that's what your mind is seeing. But really it's a cylinder. And if you saw it from this added dimensional perspective, you would see what looks like a circle. And I actually have an illustration of this on my Instagram as well. It's one of the pinned posts. It's ego versus soul with an illustration. So my Instagram is at magnetize yourself if you want a visual of this. But it's the circle versus the spiral up. It's like a spiral staircase, if you will. And so in this case, it's almost like your mind thinks that this is a circle. You clear your energy, you raise your vibration, you're kind of hermiting. Then you go out, you interact, you create, you engage, you feel your vibration lowering, you pull back into yourself. It feels like a circle. But actually, the reason you feel so pulled to these people, places, and spaces is because this isn't circular, it's a spiral. And you are spiraling up. You are elevating through all of this in some way. And that's kind of like, I feel the clicking into place for someone listening. I don't know who needs to hear this, but whoever you are, it's almost like you've been feeling this running in circles around this topic because, again, it does feel like it doesn't make sense. It feels like you're choosing between like the ego and the human ego aspect of yourself and the soul aspect of yourself. But that's not the case. It's all soul. Even if it looks very physical, very 3D, or even as though you're around people or spaces that at times do drain you a bit, it's for a purpose. So let's talk a little bit about this purpose. You have a gift that you might not be 100% cognizant of yet. Now, some of you listening might be fully aware of this gift, but for others of you, you are beginning to realize that you aren't just this passive, empathic sponge that absorbs energy and then kind of has to squeeze out the energy like a sponge and then goes out and absorbs energy again. No, you have superpowers as an empath as well. And we talked about one of those so-called superpowers in the last video as well, where we spoke on how one of your abilities is your ability to manifest more quickly because you do have this porous energetic field that not only can receive very strongly, but can also transmit energy very strongly out into the universe. But something else that I've been receiving downloads about specifically over the weekend is this other ability you have as an empath, which is to actually assist the collective in clearing blockages, limiting belief systems, and lower vibrations. But it happens through your own system. So when you feel called to certain places, spaces, people, groups, whatever, there is a reason for that calling within yourself. Your intuition is never guiding you incorrectly. Sometimes the reason is a bit hidden, and sometimes it's never consciously revealed to you in the 3D, but there's always a reason, and your soul knows that. And in many cases recently, you've been guided to create or push out or share something, or maybe put something out into the world, or to be around certain groups or people, to reach out to certain people, to connect with certain people, to be involved in certain ways in the world, because even though there might be people or things in those spaces or circles that might carry blockages or lower vibrations, when you clear them within yourself, you clear them for those collectives. So this is part of what you're doing as a light worker. You are allowing yourself to move around the world as you feel guided, to create, to inspire, to share yourself, your beautiful self and your beautiful soul essence with others in the physical world. You are allowing yourself to do all of that so that You can pave a pathway for others, if you will, energetically. So know that anytime you become empathically aware that something has become stuck in your own energy artificially, that let's say you've been having a conversation with someone and now you're feeling a bit of a lower vibrational kind of sense, like a sense you've empathically picked up on something that they're going through, or maybe this is happening when you're in a certain environment or with a group or doing something, whatever the case is. Know that as you do what you do and you pull back and you clear your own energy, raise your own vibration, you've moved the collective consciousness in a sense, especially within those circles. So through clearing that within yourself, this isn't that kind of process that's very circular as your mind is thinking it is, where you are just running in circles here, kind of doing the same thing over and over. You are actually elevating consciousness, not just your own consciousness, but the consciousness of collectives that you are involved with, which of course all collectives are connected. So it's all this web of consciousness. What you're doing also ripples very far outward as well. And that's often the unseen element of the effect of the light work that you are doing here on the planet. Another thing I wanted to talk about around this empathic absorption is that sometimes as an empath, you can actually get reactionary against yourself because of what you are empathically absorbing. And this is coming up from someone's spirit guide specifically because for someone here listening, this may be something that you've dealt with your entire life and you might be aware of it to a certain degree, but I feel that you're being asked to really lock into this sense of self-compassion as someone who's very empathic, to really solidify the knowing that you simply operate differently. That if you're in a good mood, in a high vibrational space, and then you walk into someone else's energy, or you walk into a room or a space and suddenly start feeling this drop in your vibration, start feeling this negativity or pessimism, you are someone who is so beautifully self-aware, meaning you really take responsibility for your own energy, your own thoughts, your own emotions. When this occurs, this empathic kind of transference occurs, it's very common for an empath to turn inward and to become reactionary against themselves and to feel guilty or to even feel angry at themselves for being in that lower vibrational space that they empathically absorbed. And so this might be a very specific message for maybe just a few people. But if you've been finding yourself at certain moments suddenly feeling very maybe angry at yourself or frustrated or just getting into this lower vibrational space because of what you're empathically absorbing, really practice a lot of self-compassion and allow yourself that recognition that you are doing such profound light work through all of this, that whenever you are absorbing these seeming lower vibrations and processing them and clearing them through all of those rituals and routines that you might personally use to clear that energy, again, you are moving the collective consciousness. You are literally elevating consciousness through all of that. So be so kind to yourself. Be so gentle to yourself because you have no idea how much you are assisting and benefiting and uplifting so many others energetically, especially those who have the privilege of being connected to you more closely in the physical 3D world. So, wow, a lot has been coming through here. I can't believe we've not even pulled a card yet. I am going to be shoveling for some cards, but do let me know in the comments if anything here has been resonating with you. I know that typically I do tend to pull cards all the way throughout the readings, but lately there have been a few times where downloads come through so strongly that it's almost like the cards feel almost in the way a little bit, if that makes sense. So do let me know if you enjoy that reading style. Of course, typically I will still be pulling cards, but sometimes I really just feel guided to share something that I've been picking up on energetically that I'm sure many of you have been picking up on as well. So, okay, this is leading me into something else. We have the Eight of Pentacles, and this is an energy of being patient in the sense that you are trusting that you've been moving in this positive direction, that you've been gradually creating this momentum energetically, and that it's going to manifest, but it's going to happen in flow. It's going to happen in alignment. And another really powerful download that I've been receiving actually around this point recently is connected to the way that you are currently manifesting in your life. Now, if you're part of this collective, especially, you are truly paving new pathways in many, many areas of consciousness. But specifically, one of these areas is in how you are manifesting. So many of you have been familiar with either the literal concept of manifestation or simply with the space around self-discipline, self-motivation, pushing yourself to achieve your goals, all of those types of things. Maybe you are someone who has absorbed a lot of, as they say, self-help material or different kinds of spiritual material or whatever the case is. But what I'm getting very strongly is there's been this massive shift recently as your energy has become more fine-tuned, as you've consistently been vibrating at a very high level. You've ascended, in a sense, to a higher level of consciousness, but you're still living in the same physical world as many physical humans who are operating at a much lower level of consciousness. And this is the equivalent of using a brand new, super high-tech computer that very few people have access to or even understand, that comes with its whole set of very specific fine-tuned programs and systems, and you have to be really well trained to even touch this computer. That is like this energetic system that you have access to. There is a level of training, spiritual training, that has to go into getting access to higher dimensional spaces, in a sense, higher levels of consciousness, because quite simply, if you didn't go through that spiritual training, having access to those higher systems would be overwhelming. So that is why we go through spiritual experiences, training exercises, etc. in the physical world to train ourselves to evolve to a level where we're able to access and utilize higher levels of consciousness. And so you have access to something energetically and spiritually that most people have not only no access to, but no awareness of. What this means is most people around you physically are running programs that work for them because they are using a much, much older, in a sense, operating system. Really, it's in vibrational terms just a lower vibrational system. Those programs not only work for them, but are actually necessary often for them at their current level, because they haven't yet gone through all of the spiritual training and experiences that they need to continue consistently raising their vibration and to be able to handle accessing very, very heightened vibrational energetic systems. I know we're talking at a really quantum level here, but I trust that the reason this is coming out in this reading is because many of you are co-manifesting this high level information. So that's why we're having this discussion here now. But the thing about this is you have to be able to recognize that while certain programs are working for people around you, if it doesn't feel aligned for you, if it doesn't feel like warm energy for you, if it doesn't feel exciting or passionate for you, that program is not for you, even if you witness it working for the other person. If it feels like restriction for you, if it feels like isolation, if it feels like a kind of tightening in your chest and anxiety, a kind of going backwards, and you can tell intuitively, you'll feel this in your body when you contemplate the idea of using that particular program or going that particular route that that other person is going that seems to be working for them. You will feel the offness about it if it is outdated for you, and you have to trust that internal guidance above all else, because what I'm finding more and more is collectively we are beginning to shift into a space where, in some cases, even just setting hard and fast, very clear goals, definitive goals for yourself, might carry a little bit of an offness to it sometimes. It might feel a bit restrictive because maybe you have this awareness that there is so much in store for you that your conscious mind can't even definitively quantify in the parameters of some kind of very specific goal statement. You have been tapping into this literal magic of the universe as you're in this flow state, creating from this place of literal flow, just dancing with life, that you are realizing that is how you want to live, that you want to live in this dance with life, that you want to live in the flow and release the need to quantify or define in strict terms exactly what that's going to look like for you in the physical realm. To allow yourself to align with your highest vibrational timeline, which naturally encompasses all aspects, areas, and details of your life, even those that your conscious mind can't quantify, if I can speak, can't quantify in the moment in physical terms. So, and again, that won't be for everyone. You always have to listen to your guidance, because in some cases, or for some of you listening, you might feel guided to set very specific goals, timelines, deadlines, etc. for yourself. But I get the sense that for many of you listening, it's almost like you're getting to this point where it feels like you've expanded even beyond your own concept of definitive goal setting, where you have moved into this higher level space where it's a dance, it's a flow, it's things aligning in magical ways that your mind couldn't have even defined if it wanted to. And it's such a beautiful, magical way to live and to experience life. But again, it's something so few people are going to understand because they don't have access to it yet. But you are a path forger. You are paving the way here. Trust in that as well. Okay, so I know we're getting kind of to where I usually cut off the reading and head over to Patreon, which, by the way, if you want to keep this going, I will be going to Patreon to keep channeling for our more exclusive closed community there. So if you do want to access the extended Patreon reading, the link to do so is in the pinned comment and description box underneath this video. Okay, but there's one last thing I really have to share here on YouTube specifically, because my guides are giving this to me again. They're telling me not to forget to share this as well. And this is around the concepts of being a path forger. So essentially, you are in this place spiritually where you have been elevated, and we've talked about this level of access you have to these higher level energetic systems that most people aren't even aware of, let alone having any kind of access to. What comes with this is, let's call it the isolation of the leader. Not isolation in the sense that you aren't socializing or connecting or out in the world, because I get the sense that you've been guided recently to push out more into the world, to share more of yourself in some way, whether it's a business, whether it's something you're creating online, a passion you're sharing, people you're connecting with, people you're reconnecting with, whatever that is. And of course, your guidance speaks to you specifically on that, so we don't have to get into the details. But what I mean by the isolation of the leader is, other souls have an unconscious recognition of your spiritual status. And I don't mean this in some kind of a prideful way, but I don't even really need to say that because I know the group I'm speaking to here has elevated to a point where you've really begun to transcend those artificial barriers of separation, the sense of someone being elevated over another person. So you would never feel that way. I get the sense that you are a very humble person, and yet you are a powerful leader spiritually, whether you realize it or not, whether that's reflected in your literal physical positions in the world or not. People recognize a kind of spiritual status that you have. And what this means is people have been coming to you recently, or maybe this has been the story of your life, for advice, for help to share something about their life, about their circumstances, about their situation. And yet you might feel as though there's no one that you're sharing yourself with, or very few people that you're able to really bare your soul with or share yourself with. And you feel it intuitively when you speak with these individuals, even if you feel really guided to these conversations. It's almost as though your guidance is telling you in those moments, listen. Listen to what they're saying, offer words of comfort or advice or a loving energy, whatever you feel guided to offer. But when it comes to sharing about yourself to that person on a really deep level, you might feel this wall go up. And it's not unnecessary guardedness, it's not a blockage, it's a protection, but it's also a recognition of a difference in status spiritually. And again, I don't mean anything like a hierarchy. I'm talking about levels of consciousness. So when someone has gone through lessons that you've gone through spiritually already, or mentally or emotionally, of course, it's all spiritual, but when someone has gone through lessons that you've gone through, you understand them on a deep level and you're also equipped to guide them. It's kind of like if you are someone who has struggled with a particular, and we don't have to get into any specifics, you'll know from experience or through watching others how this connects. But if you've gone through, for example, some kind of specific trauma, a specific issue in your life, maybe mentally, emotionally, have you ever noticed how you can always see the signs of it in other people? You know when you're talking with someone who's in that situation or going through that particular issue, or maybe it's a limiting belief system that they have that you used to have. You can see it almost like you're on the outside of it, but they're in it. So very often they can't see it because it's what's kind of whirling around them. And that's what makes you such a powerful teacher, because you are communicating with these others, but you're also on the outside in the sense that you've already grown out of that space. You've healed out of that space. So it's almost like you are this guiding light, but this other person speaking to you very often is not equipped to guide you or to advise you because you're on a different level of vibration. You're on a different level of consciousness. It's kind of like they might be at level 3 on a certain journey and you're at level 10, if that makes sense. And again, it's not a hierarchy thing. It's about certain spiritual lessons that you've gone through, certain things that you've healed, certain levels of depth that you've gone through and into within yourself, so that you can better understand and be better equipped to guide others. But you will feel this offness in the moments where it's almost like you'll feel as though you overshared, even though you were just reciprocating information, but something about it in your gut feels very off. Trust that guidance, because sometimes those walls are going up because the person you're speaking to isn't equipped to guide you or to advise you with your current spiritual lessons or your current experiences in your life, because you've expanded to this higher level of consciousness. So if you've gotten into a lot of situations recently where you feel as though you're speaking a lot about other people to them, meaning you're allowing them to really share, to really open up, to come to you for advice or guidance or to just talk about their life, but that you have very few people that you can do that with. Know that this isn't because there's something blocked or something wrong in you. It's because you are really ascending to this spiritual status of being a guide and being a teacher for other people. Now, yes, of course, with that being said, I keep seeing like a few kind of individuals around you. These might be people that you've met. This might be individuals that are entirely new. This might be spirit guides, but I see these energies around you of people that you can entrust with your heart, that you can bear your soul to. But it's a very rare few. It's a close circle, if you will. So for some of you, this could be soul family that's really aligned with you, that's really expanded to your level that you are going to be needing very soon. For others of you, again, it could be ancestors, spirit guides, just energies around you, whatever the case is for you personally. But I am feeling already that is something we're going to talk about on Patreon. So we're going to kind of use that as a starting point in the Patreon reading and then go from there. I am going to be channeling on Patreon whatever else wants to come through for the specific collective that does choose to tune in there. So if you do feel guided to join on Patreon, then the link to do so is in the pinned comment and description box underneath this video. Of course, if you do resonate with my energy in a general sense, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel, join our beautiful community of like-minded, conscious, creative beings here on YouTube. Now, even though we've only pulled one card this entire reading, we are going to pull a final Rumi Oracle card because I adore these Rumi messages and I know many of you do as well. It always feels like the perfect place to close the readings. So ironically, this card is Dance of the Divine Feminine. Now, regardless of whether you resonate more so with your internal divine feminine or divine masculine aspect, this is about being creative, passionate, lit up in that flow state. And as we said earlier in the reading, really allowing yourself to dance with life. So let's read a guidebook message here. Okay, and the guidebook says, if a tree could move from one place to another, it would not suffer the pain of the saw or the oppressive wounds. If the sun and the moon stood still like the rocks, they could not offer brilliance. How bitter the taste of water would be if the river stopped its flow, remaining still like seawater. When the seawater rises to become a cloud, it loses its bitterness and pours the rain of sweetness. I have given you only a few examples. You can figure out the rest. Break away from the self and enter the kingdom of love. Rumi. And the guidebook also says, this oracle comes to you with guidance. Your life may feel as though it is being tipped upside down, but soon you'll be able to find your orientation, even if everything you have once held on to appears to be shimmering and insubstantial. A mere dance of light rather than solid ground. It is the priorities of the heart that matter to you. It will be through establishing right priorities, the priorities of your own heart. So ask your heart what matters most and attend to that. So that feels like a perfect place to close this first reading. Thank you so much again for tuning in today. I hope you all have a beautiful, magical remainder of your day and start to your week. I will be continuing now on Patreon with those of you who want to join there. So, of course, the link to that is under the video. But otherwise, I will see you all here again in Wednesday's collective reading.